overcome all your fears? It seems counterintuitive, but his teachings offer quick and surprising solutions to our modern anxieties. This controversial and transformative approach reveals how unshakable faith and simple practices can revolutionize your life. Stay until the end to discover the secret that few know about living free from fear. Trust in God is a fundamental pillar in Jesus' teachings for facing fear. He taught that by placing our faith in the Creator, we can find the strength needed to overcome adversities and remain calm in life's storms. This trust is not just an abstract concept, but a daily practice that transforms our perspective and helps us face challenges with serenity. Jesus often encouraged his followers not to fear, reminding them of God's constant presence and care. He used examples from nature to illustrate this point, such as when he mentioned the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, which do not worry about tomorrow but are fully cared for by the Heavenly Father. This analogy serves as a powerful reminder that if God takes care of the smallest of his creations, how much more will he care for his children? Trust in God also manifests in how we face difficult situations. Jesus demonstrated this in his own life, especially in the moments leading up to his crucifixion. Even in the face of the greatest adversity, he maintained his unshakable trust in the divine plan, showing that true inner peace comes from the certainty that God is in control, regardless of external circumstances. By cultivating this trust, people can experience a transformation in how they see the world and react to difficulties. Fear, which often paralyzes and prevents growth, gives way to courage and determination. This change in perspective allows individuals to face challenges with a new attitude, seeing them as opportunities for growth and strengthening faith, rather than insurmountable obstacles. The practice of trusting in God also involves accepting that we will not always understand all aspects of the divine plan. Jesus taught that just as a child fully trusts their parents, we must trust in God even when we do not fully understand his actions. This blind trust can be difficult to cultivate in a world that values control and total understanding, but it is essential for finding peace amid life's uncertainties. Moreover, trusting in God frees us from the need to control everything around us. Jesus emphasized that we cannot add a single day to our lives through worry. Instead, he taught that we should hand our worries over to God, trusting that he will take care of us. This surrender does not mean passivity, but rather an active collaboration with the divine plan, doing our part while trusting the final outcome. Trust in God also helps us maintain the correct perspective when facing problems. Jesus taught that the difficulties of this world are temporary, and that we should fix our eyes on eternal things. This broader vision allows us to face fears and anxieties with the certainty that there is a greater purpose in everything we face, even if we do not see it immediately. Another important dimension of trust in God is community. Jesus gathered disciples and encouraged the formation of faith communities. In these communities, people can share their struggles, fears, and victories, strengthening each other in their trust in God. Mutual support and shared testimony of how God works in each person's life serve as a powerful reminder of divine faithfulness. Trust in God also manifests in how we deal with failure and disappointment. Jesus taught that God is a loving Father who does not abandon us even when we make mistakes. This certainty allows us to face the fear of failure with courage, knowing that we have a God who loves us unconditionally and is always ready to welcome us back. By cultivating trust in God, people can discover an inexhaustible source of strength and courage. This trust does not eliminate life's challenges, but provides a solid foundation to face them. Jesus showed that by fully trusting in God, we can overcome our deepest fears and live a life of purpose and meaning. The practice of trusting in God also leads to greater gratitude and contentment. Jesus taught his followers to be grateful in all circumstances, recognizing God's goodness even in difficult times. This attitude of gratitude helps dissipate fear and anxiety, focusing our attention on the blessings present in our lives. Additionally, trust in God empowers us to make courageous decisions. Jesus often challenged his followers to step out of their comfort zones, trusting that God would guide and protect them. This trust allows us to face the unknown with boldness, knowing that we are not alone on our journey. Trust in God also helps us deal with the fear of death, one of the deepest and most universal fears. Jesus taught about eternal life and demonstrated through his resurrection that death does not have the final word. This eternal perspective allows us to live with greater freedom and purpose, without being paralyzed by the fear of the end. Finally, trust in God, as taught by Jesus, is not an escape from reality, but a way to face it with strength and serenity. It allows us to see beyond immediate circumstances and trust in God's larger plan for our lives. This trust becomes the foundation on which we can build a life of courage, peace, and purpose, overcoming fear and fully embracing what life has to offer. The pursuit of the heavenly kingdom and its righteousness is a central teaching of Jesus that offers a transformative perspective on how to deal with fear and life's worries. By putting spiritual priorities first, Christ's followers find a new balance and renewed confidence to face everyday challenges. This fundamental principle shifts a person's focus away from worldly anxieties to a broader, eternal vision. When someone focuses primarily on divine things, earthly concerns begin to diminish in importance. Not that they disappear completely, but they are placed in a more appropriate perspective. Jesus taught that by seeking the kingdom first, all other needs would be met. This promise is not a guarantee of wealth or material comfort, but rather an affirmation that the true needs of life will be met. It is an invitation to trust in divine provision and not to be consumed by anxiety about the future. Practicing this teaching requires a change in mindset. Instead of constantly worrying about material needs, the individual is called to focus their energy and attention on higher values: love, compassion, justice, and service to others. This reorientation of priorities not only reduces fear, but also enriches life with a deeper purpose. By putting the kingdom first, people discover a new source of security. No longer based on material possessions or external circumstances, this security is rooted in the certainty of divine love and care. This provides an inner peace that persists even amid life's storms. This teaching also challenges the common notion of success. Instead of seeking recognition, wealth, or power, Jesus' followers are encouraged to seek divine approval and live according to the kingdom's principles. This shift in focus frees people from the fear of failure in the eyes of the world, allowing them to live with greater authenticity and courage. The pursuit of the kingdom also implies a change in how people relate to each other. By prioritizing divine values, the ability to love one's neighbor, forgive offenses, and serve selflessly grows. These attitudes not only enrich relationships, but also diminish the fear of rejection or conflict. This principle encourages a life of simplicity and contentment. By focusing on what truly matters, people free themselves from the need to accumulate material goods or constantly compare themselves to others. This freedom significantly reduces the stress and anxiety that often accompany the pursuit of status and wealth. The practical application of this teaching can manifest in various ways. It can mean regularly dedicating time to prayer and meditation, seeking divine guidance for important decisions. It can involve engaging in acts of community service, putting others' needs above one's own. Or it can reflect in career and lifestyle choices that prioritize positive impact over financial gain. By adopting this perspective, people find that many of their fears are unfounded or exaggerated. Excessive worry about the future gives way to a tranquil trust in divine providence. Fear of others' judgment is replaced by the security of God's approval. Anxiety about material needs is eased by the certainty that the essentials will be provided. This teaching also promotes a long-term view. Instead of worrying only about immediate gains, people are encouraged to consider the eternal impact of their actions. This broader perspective helps place everyday fears and worries in their proper place, reducing their power over the mind and heart. The priority pursuit of the kingdom also fosters an attitude of gratitude. By recognizing divine blessings and constant provision, people develop a sense of contentment that serves as a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety. Gratitude opens the eyes to the many ways in which needs are met, often unexpectedly. This principle encourages an active life of faith. It's not just about believing in abstract concepts, but about living daily, trusting in divine goodness and provision. This faith in action strengthens the person to face challenges with courage, knowing they are not alone on their journey. By prioritizing the kingdom, people also discover a new source of identity. Instead of defining themselves by their possessions, achievements, or social status, they find their true value as beloved children of God. This secure identity serves as a shield against many fears and insecurities that plague modern society. Finally, this teaching of Jesus offers a balanced perspective on life. It does not deny the importance of earthly needs, but places them in their proper context. By seeking first the kingdom, people find not only provision for their needs, but also a greater purpose, lasting peace, and renewed courage to face any challenge life may present. By seeking first the kingdom of God, we discover a new perspective that helps us face fears and anxieties. This pursuit naturally leads us to another fundamental teaching of Jesus: the importance of living in the present. While seeking eternal things, we are called to fully embrace the present moment, letting go of excessive worries about the future. Jesus emphasized the importance of living in the present as a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety. He taught that each day brings its own concerns, and that we should not burden ourselves with worries about tomorrow. This advice is not an invitation to irresponsibility or lack of planning, but rather a call to trust in divine provision and focus our energy on the here and now. Living in the present means being fully aware and engaged with the current moment. It is a practice that requires mental and spiritual discipline, especially in a world that constantly pulls us into the past with regrets or pushes us into the future with anxieties. Jesus taught that true peace and joy are found when we free ourselves from these temporal distractions and concentrate on the present moment. This approach to life allows us to appreciate the blessings that often go unnoticed when we are caught up in future worries. The simple act of noticing the beauty around us, savoring a meal, or enjoying the company of loved ones becomes a form of gratitude and worship. In doing so, we discover that many of our fears are unfounded, and that there are far more reasons for joy than we imagined. Living in the present also empowers us to deal more effectively with challenges as they arise. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of what might happen, we can focus our energy on responding to the real situations we face. Jesus demonstrated this in his own life, dealing with each situation as it came without being overwhelmed by anxiety about the future, even knowing the difficulties that awaited him. This mindset frees us from the weight of expectations and allows us to embrace life with more lightness and spontaneity. When we are not constantly trying to control the future or lamenting the past, we become more open to the opportunities and experiences each day offers. This can lead to a renewed sense of adventure and discovery in everyday life. Living in the present also significantly improves our relationships. When we are truly present with others, listening attentively and responding with empathy, we create deeper and more meaningful connections. Jesus exemplified this in his interactions, giving full attention to each person he met, regardless of their social status or circumstances. This practice helps us develop greater emotional resilience. By focusing on the present moment, we learn to deal with emotions as they arise, instead of being overwhelmed by worries about what might or might not happen. This allows us to respond to situations with more calmness and clarity, rather than reacting impulsively based on fears or anxieties. Living in the present also helps us cultivate a deeper faith. When we trust that God will take care of tomorrow, we can focus on living faithfully today. This trust frees us to make courageous decisions and live according to our values, without being paralyzed by fear of future consequences. Jesus taught that the kingdom of God is present here and now, not just in a distant future. Living in the present allows us to experience and participate in this kingdom in our daily lives. We can see the opportunities for love, service, and growth that are before us, instead of always postponing our participation in the divine plan to a future moment. This approach to life also helps us practice forgiveness and emotional healing. By focusing on the present, we can begin to release past resentments and future fears that often bind us. Forgiveness becomes easier when we are not constantly reliving past offenses or worrying about potential future hurts. Living in the present allows us to better appreciate the process of growth and learning. Instead of fixating only on future results, we can find joy and satisfaction in the act of learning and growing itself. This helps us develop patience and perseverance, essential qualities for overcoming fear and anxiety. This mindset also helps us practice gratitude more consistently. When we are attentive to the present, we more easily notice the small blessings and moments of joy that often go unnoticed. This attitude of gratitude serves as a powerful antidote to fear and negativity. Finally, living in the present reminds us of God's constant presence in our lives. Jesus taught that God is always with us, not just in a distant future or special moments. By focusing on the here and now, we can experience this divine presence more tangibly and comfortingly. Practicing the act of living in the present requires conscious effort and discipline. It may involve techniques such as meditation, contemplative prayer, or simply taking regular breaks to reconnect with the current moment. It is an ongoing learning process, but the benefits in terms of mental peace, reduced fear, and increased joy are immeasurable. By embracing this teaching of Jesus, we discover that many of our fears lose their power over us. The uncertain future ceases to be a constant source of anxiety, and the past no longer binds us with regrets. Instead, we find freedom and peace in the present moment, confident in God's love and provision for each day. As we learn to live in the present, we find that one of the most powerful tools for maintaining this awareness and combating fear is the practice of constant prayer. Jesus not only taught about the importance of prayer, but also exemplified it in his own life, showing how it can be a continuous source of strength and peace. Constant prayer, as taught by Jesus, is not just about formal moments of communication with God, but about maintaining a continuous internal dialogue with the divine. It is a state of spiritual awareness that permeates all aspects of daily life. This practice helps us remain centered and connected to our source of strength, even amid life's storms. Jesus emphasized the importance of praying without ceasing, not as an exercise in empty repetition, but as a way to keep the heart and mind attuned to God. This constant connection serves as a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety. When we feel in continuous communication with the divine, we gain a broader perspective on our concerns and challenges. Constant prayer reminds us of our dependence on God and helps us trust in His provision. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by circumstances, we learn to bring every concern, no matter how small, to God. This habit frees us from the burden of trying to control everything on our own, greatly relieving the stress and anxiety we often experience. Moreover, the practice of continuous prayer keeps us alert to the opportunities to experience God's presence in our daily lives. We begin to see ordinary moments as sacred and everyday interactions as chances to manifest divine love. This heightened awareness helps us find meaning and purpose even in the most mundane tasks. Constant prayer also serves as a shield against negative thoughts and irrational fears. By keeping our mind focused on God, we create less space for unnecessary worries to take root. It is as if we are continually renewing our minds, aligning our also for others. This practice of intercession takes our focus off our own concerns and connects us with the needs of those around us. In doing so, we often find that our own fears diminish as we concentrate on supporting and blessing others. Constant prayer also helps us develop an attitude of gratitude. When we are in continuous dialogue with God, we become more aware of the blessings in our lives. This gratitude serves as a powerful antidote to fear and negativity, constantly reminding us of God's goodness and faithfulness. Furthermore, the practice of continuous prayer helps us discern God's will for our lives. As we maintain an open dialogue with the divine, we become more attuned to His guidance. This gives us confidence in making decisions and facing challenges, knowing we are aligned with a greater purpose. Jesus also taught about the importance of praying with persistence. He told parables that illustrated the importance of not giving up, even when answers seem to delay. This persistence in prayer develops in us a spiritual resilience that helps us face fears and doubts with determination and faith. Constant prayer also helps us develop greater self-awareness. As we express our thoughts and feelings to God, we gain clarity about our deepest motivations and desires. This self-knowledge enables us to better deal with our fears and insecurities, bringing them to light rather than leaving them hidden in the shadows. Additionally, the practice of continuous prayer reminds us of our identity as beloved children of God. This constant awareness of who we are in relation to the divine gives us a solid foundation to face life's challenges. When we continually remember God's unconditional love for us, many of our fears lose their power. Jesus also taught about the importance of praying in community. While individual prayer is vital, there is a special power when we join others in prayer. This communal practice reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles and fears, providing us with a sense of belonging and mutual support. Constant prayer also helps us develop patience and acceptance. We do not always receive immediate answers or the ones we expect. Through the continuous practice of prayer, we learn to trust in God's timing and accept that His ways are not always our ways. This acceptance frees us from the anxiety of trying to control every aspect of our lives. Moreover, continuous prayer keeps us humble. It constantly reminds us of our dependence on God and prevents us from pride and self-sufficiency. This humility helps us face fear with a more balanced perspective, recognizing our limitations while also trusting in God's unlimited strength. The practice of constant prayer also helps us maintain focus on what is truly important. In a world full of distractions and fleeting concerns, continuous prayer anchors us in eternal values and deeper purposes. This helps us navigate life with greater clarity and confidence, less affected by the fears and anxieties that often divert us from our path. Finally, Jesus taught that constant prayer is an expression of love and trust in God. It is not an obligation or burden, but an opportunity to deepen our relationship with the divine. As we cultivate this relationship through continuous prayer, we discover an inexhaustible source of strength, courage, and peace that enables us to face any fear or challenge we may encounter. Constant prayer naturally leads us to another fundamental pillar of Jesus' teachings: having faith. Faith is a crucial element in overcoming fear, acting as a driving force that propels us beyond our perceived limitations and connects us with a broader and more powerful reality. Jesus frequently emphasized the importance of faith in His teachings and interactions. He said that even faith the size of a mustard seed could move mountains. This powerful metaphor illustrates how even a small amount of genuine faith can have a transformative impact on our lives, especially when facing seemingly insurmountable fears and challenges. Faith, as taught by Jesus, is not blind or irrational belief, but a deep trust based on the character and promises of God. It is a conviction that goes beyond what we can see or fully comprehend with our limited senses. This faith allows us to look beyond immediate circumstances and trust in a greater plan, even when we cannot see the full picture. Having faith enables us to face fear in a unique way. When we believe there is a greater purpose behind our struggles and that we are not alone in our battles, we gain a courage that transcends our own strength. Faith reminds us that we are part of a larger story and that our current difficulties are not the end of the journey. Jesus repeatedly demonstrated how faith can transform seemingly impossible situations. He healed the sick, fed multitudes with scarce resources, and even calmed storms. These miracles were not just demonstrations of divine power, but also lessons about the transformative potential of faith. They teach us that with faith, we can overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable and find solutions where we once only saw problems. Faith also gives us a new perspective on our circumstances. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of chance or forces beyond our control, faith allows us to see each situation as an opportunity for growth and learning. This shift in perspective is crucial for overcoming fear, as it helps us view challenges not as threats, but as chances to strengthen our trust in God and in ourselves. Moreover, faith connects us with a source of strength that goes beyond our own capabilities. Jesus taught that through faith, we can access the power of God in our lives. This connection gives us the confidence that no matter what we face, we are not fighting alone. There is a greater power working on our behalf, even when we cannot see or fully understand how. Faith also helps us deal with uncertainty, which is often the root of our fears. In a world where much is beyond our control, faith anchors us in something more stable and enduring. It reminds us that although we cannot control all circumstances, we can trust in a God who has ultimate control and who works all things for the good of those who love Him. Jesus taught that faith is more than a feeling or passive belief. It is an active force that must be exercised and cultivated. He encouraged His followers to act on their faith, to take bold steps even when the way was not entirely clear. This active faith challenges us to step out of our comfort zones and face our fears head-on, trusting that we will be supported in the process. Faith also helps us maintain an eternal perspective. Jesus often spoke about the kingdom of God and life beyond this earthly existence. This broader vision helps put our current fears and worries into perspective. When we see our life in the context of eternity, many of our daily fears lose their power over us. Furthermore, faith unites us with a community of believers. Jesus formed a community of followers and emphasized the importance of supporting one another. When we share our faith with others, we find encouragement, support, and additional strength to face our fears. Shared faith multiplies courage and diminishes the power of fear in our lives. Faith also helps us persevere in difficult times. Jesus taught that faith does not exempt us from difficulties, but gives us the strength to endure and grow through them. This perseverance based on faith allows us to face our fears with determination, knowing that each challenge overcome strengthens our confidence and increases our capacity to face future obstacles. Having faith also means trusting in God's timing. Jesus often spoke about the importance of waiting for God's right time, even when circumstances seemed urgent. This trust in divine timing helps us deal with the anxiety and fear that often arise when we want to control the pace of events in our lives. Faith teaches us to see beyond appearances. Jesus often challenged people to look beyond the superficial and see the hidden potential in situations and people. This faith-based vision allows us to see possibilities where others see only problems, and potential where others see only limitations. Finally, faith, as taught by Jesus, is a journey of continuous growth. It is not something we achieve once and then stop developing. As we face different challenges and fears throughout life, our faith is tested, refined, and strengthened. Each experience becomes an opportunity to deepen our trust and expand our understanding of the transformative power of faith. In essence, having faith according to Jesus' teachings is a powerful tool for overcoming fear. It provides us with a solid foundation, a broader perspective, and an inexhaustible source of strength and courage. Faith reminds us that we are more than our current circumstances and that with God, we can overcome any obstacle life presents. While faith provides us the strength to face our fears, the knowledge of the truth offers us the clarity and understanding necessary to dispel them. Jesus emphasized the importance of knowing the truth as a fundamental means of liberation from fear and anxiety. "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free," he said, highlighting the transformative power that correct understanding can have in our lives. The truth in the context of Jesus' teachings goes beyond mere facts or information. It encompasses a deep understanding of spiritual reality, the nature of God, and our own identity as beings created in His image. This fundamental truth serves as a solid foundation upon which we can build our lives, withstanding the winds of fear and uncertainty. Knowing the truth about God is essential for overcoming fear. Jesus revealed a God of love, compassion, and paternal care, challenging the conceptions of a distant or punitive deity. Understanding that we are unconditionally loved by a God who cares about every detail of our lives frees us from the fear of divine abandonment or rejection. Furthermore, the truth about our own identity is crucial. Jesus taught that we are beloved children of God, created with a unique purpose. This truth directly confronts the fears of inadequacy or lack of value that often haunt us. When we internalize this truth, we gain a confidence that transcends others' opinions or external circumstances. The truth also helps us discern between real and irrational fears. Many of our fears are based on distorted perceptions or false beliefs. Jesus often challenged these distortions, exposing the truth behind appearances. By knowing the truth, we can evaluate our worries more objectively, distinguishing between real threats and unfounded fears. Knowing the truth also means understanding the temporary nature of many of our struggles. Jesus taught about eternity and life beyond this earthly existence. This eternal perspective helps us put our fears and anxieties in context, reminding us that many of the things we fear are, in fact, transient when viewed in light of eternity. The truth about forgiveness and redemption is another crucial aspect of Jesus' teachings that helps us overcome fear. Many people are tormented by the fear of condemnation or the guilt of past mistakes. The truth of divine forgiveness and the possibility of a new beginning liberates people from these burdens, allowing them to live without the constant weight of fear and guilt. Jesus also emphasized the importance of living in the truth. This means being authentic and honest, both with ourselves and with others. This authenticity frees us from the fear of being discovered or exposed, as there is nothing to hide when we live in the light of truth. Moreover, this honesty fosters healthier and more meaningful relationships, reducing the fear of rejection or abandonment. Knowing the truth also equips us to face the lies and distortions that often fuel our fears. Jesus warned his followers about false teachers and deceptive doctrines. By being grounded in the truth, we can identify and resist negative influences that could exacerbate our fears and insecurities. The truth about the power of community is another important aspect of Jesus' teachings. He formed a community of followers and emphasized the importance of mutual love and support. Knowing this truth frees us from the fear of isolation and reminds us that we do not have to face our fears alone. Jesus also taught the truth about the power of prayer and connection with God. Knowing this truth provides us with a constant source of strength and comfort, reducing the fear of facing situations beyond our capabilities. The truth that we have direct access to God through prayer gives us confidence to face any challenge. The truth about the purpose and meaning of life is fundamental to overcoming existential fear. Jesus taught that our lives have a divine purpose, that we are called to love God and our neighbor. This understanding frees us from the fear of insignificance or lack of meaning, giving us clear direction and a sense of importance in our lives. Knowing the truth also includes understanding the nature of suffering and difficulties. Jesus did not promise a life without problems, but taught that adversities can be opportunities for growth and refinement. This truth helps us face challenges with a different perspective, reducing the fear of suffering and allowing us to see its transformative potential. The truth about the kingdom of God, as taught by Jesus, is also crucial to overcoming fear. He spoke of a kingdom that is not of this world, a kingdom of justice, peace, and joy. Knowing this truth gives us hope and helps us maintain the correct perspective in the face of the injustices and difficulties of this world. Jesus also taught the truth about the power of love. He demonstrated that love is stronger than fear, capable of transforming enemies into friends and healing deep wounds. Knowing and living this truth frees us from the fear of others, of differences, and enables us to build bridges where there were once walls. Finally, the truth about the constant presence of God, as taught by Jesus, is a powerful antidote to fear. Knowing that we are never alone, that God is with us at all times, gives us a deep security that overcomes any fear or anxiety. In summary, knowing the truth, as Jesus taught, is a fundamental key to overcoming fear. This multifaceted truth about God, ourselves, life, and its purpose provides us with a solid foundation to face life's challenges with courage and confidence. As we internalize and live these truths, we discover a freedom that allows us not only to overcome our own fears, but also to help others do the same. After understanding the importance of knowing the truth, we encounter one of Jesus' most fundamental teachings, loving your neighbor. This principle not only complements the previous ones, but also serves as a powerful tool for combating fear in our lives and in society as a whole. Jesus taught that loving your neighbor is one of the two greatest commandments, along with loving God. This love is not a superficial feeling or a fleeting emotion, but a conscious decision to value and care for others, regardless of who they are. It is an active love, manifesting in concrete actions and compassionate attitudes. Loving your neighbor as yourself frees us from the fear of others. Many of our fears are based on mistrust or misunderstanding of those who are different from us. By practicing love for our neighbor, we begin to see the humanity in each person, recognizing that we all share the same hopes, fears, and basic needs. This understanding dissolves barriers and reduces the fear of the unknown. Jesus exemplified this love in his own life, interacting with people from all social strata, including those who were marginalized or considered unclean by the society of his time. He demonstrated that true love transcends prejudices and social fears, challenging us to do the same in our own lives. Loving your neighbor also helps us overcome the fear of rejection. When we focus on loving others, we free ourselves from the constant concern about what others think of us. This selfless love allows us to act with authenticity and compassion, without the paralyzing fear of being judged or rejected. Furthermore, loving your neighbor creates a supportive environment that is crucial for combating fear. Jesus taught that we should bear one another's burdens. When we practice this type of communal love, we create support networks that strengthen us in the face of life's challenges. Knowing that we are not alone, that there are people who care about us, is a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety. Loving your neighbor also challenges us to forgive, another crucial aspect of overcoming fear. Fear often arises from past hurts and unresolved resentments. Jesus taught and demonstrated the power of forgiveness, even in extreme situations. By learning to forgive, we free ourselves from the burden of bitterness and the fear of being hurt again. This love also drives us to act on behalf of others, which in turn helps us overcome our own fears. When we focus on helping those in need, we often find that our own concerns and fears diminish. There is a transformative power in stepping out of ourselves and dedicating ourselves to the well-being of others. Jesus taught that we should love even our enemies. This is perhaps the most challenging and revolutionary aspect of his teaching on love. Loving those who hurt or threaten us requires inner strength and a perspective that can only come from a divine source. However, when we practice this radical love, we find a deep freedom from the fear of those we consider our adversaries. Loving your neighbor also helps us overcome the fear of failure. When our focus is on loving and serving others, our definition of success changes. We are no longer tied to artificial standards of achievement, but find satisfaction and purpose in making a difference in the lives of those around us. Moreover, loving your neighbor teaches us vulnerability, which is essential for overcoming fear. Jesus demonstrated an openness and honesty in his relationships that challenged social norms. By learning to be vulnerable in our relationships, we create deeper and more authentic connections that strengthen us against the fear of isolation and loneliness. Loving your neighbor also helps us overcome the fear of scarcity. Jesus taught and demonstrated that there is enough abundance for everyone when we share what we have. This principle of generosity frees us from the fear of not having enough and allows us to live with a mindset of abundance. Loving your neighbor also implies respecting the inherent dignity of every person. This respect helps us overcome the fear of cultural, religious, or ideological differences. By recognizing the value of each individual, regardless of their beliefs or backgrounds, we build bridges of understanding that dispel the fear of others. Jesus also taught that love for our neighbor should extend beyond our immediate circle. He told the parable of the Good Samaritan to illustrate that our neighbor includes even those we consider strangers or different. This expansion of the circle of love challenges us to overcome the fear of the unknown and extend compassion to all. Loving your neighbor also helps us face the fear of death. Jesus taught that love is stronger than death. When we live a life of love and service to others, we leave a legacy that transcends our physical existence. This perspective frees us from the fear of mortality and gives us a sense of purpose that goes beyond our individual life. Furthermore, loving your neighbor teaches us to practice empathy, which is crucial for overcoming fear. By putting ourselves in the other's place, we begin to understand their struggles and motivations. This understanding reduces the fear of the unknown and allows us to respond with compassion instead of defensive reactions. Loving your neighbor also challenges us to be agents of change in our society. Jesus often confronted injustices and advocated for the marginalized. By following his example, we can work to create a more just and equitable society, reducing the fears that arise from inequality and oppression. Finally, loving your neighbor connects us with divine love. Jesus taught that by loving others, we are expressing our love for God. This connection with the divine provides us with an inexhaustible source of strength and courage to face our fears. In short, loving your neighbor, as taught by Jesus, is a powerful force for overcoming fear in all its forms. This love challenges us to step outside ourselves to build bridges of understanding, to forgive, to serve, and to create communities of mutual support. As we practice this radical and transformative love, we find that many of our fears dissipate, replaced by a confidence and peace that transcend external circumstances. Loving your neighbor naturally leads us to Jesus' next crucial teaching for overcoming fear: forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful and transformative practices Jesus taught, capable of freeing both the forgiver and the forgiven from the weight of fear, guilt, and resentment. Jesus not only taught about forgiveness, but also demonstrated it radically, even in his final moments on the cross, when he asked for forgiveness for those who crucified him. This extreme example shows us the liberating power of forgiveness in situations many would consider unforgivable. Forgiveness is essential for overcoming fear, because many of our fears are rooted in past experiences of pain and hurt. When we hold on to resentments, we create emotional barriers that prevent us from trusting and relating freely with others. Forgiveness breaks down these barriers and frees us to live and love without the constant weight of the past. Jesus taught that we should forgive 70 times 7, illustrating that forgiveness is not a one-time act, but a continuous practice. This teaching challenges us to cultivate an attitude of forgiveness in our daily lives, not just for significant offenses, but also for the small irritations and disappointments that can accumulate fear and bitterness in our hearts. Forgiveness also frees us from the fear of being judged for our own mistakes. Jesus taught that the measure we use to forgive others will be used to forgive us. By practicing forgiveness, we create an environment of grace and mercy that extends not only to others, but also to ourselves, alleviating the fear of condemnation. Furthermore, forgiveness helps us overcome the fear of the future. When we are bound by past hurts, we often project those fears and negative expectations onto future situations. Forgiveness allows us to look to the future with hope and openness, without the burden of past negative experiences. Jesus also taught that forgiveness is key to emotional and spiritual healing. Many fears are fueled by unresolved emotional wounds. The act of forgiving initiates a healing process that can free a person from years of accumulated pain, significantly reducing the fear and anxiety associated with those wounds. Forgiveness also helps us overcome the fear of vulnerability. Often we protect ourselves emotionally because we fear being hurt again. Jesus demonstrated that forgiveness requires an openness of heart that may seem risky, but actually strengthens and frees us from the fear of genuine connection with others. Additionally, forgiveness is a powerful tool for breaking cycles of violence and retaliation. Jesus taught to turn the other cheek and to love our enemies, principles deeply linked to forgiveness. By practicing forgiveness, we help create a culture of peace that reduces the fear of violence and conflict. Forgiveness also helps us overcome the fear of losing control. Often we hold on to anger and resentment as a way to maintain an illusion of control over situations or people who have hurt us. Jesus taught that by forgiving, we relinquish this illusory control and trust in a higher power, which paradoxically gives us a much greater sense of peace and freedom. Jesus also showed that forgiveness is an act of personal liberation. He said, "If you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." This teaching is not a threat, but a reminder that forgiveness frees us as much, if not more, than it frees the person being forgiven. By forgiving, we release ourselves from the burden of rancor and the fear it generates. Forgiveness also helps us overcome the fear of our own imperfection. Jesus taught that we are all flawed and in need of forgiveness. By practicing forgiveness, we acknowledge our own humanity and that of others, reducing the fear of not being good enough or being rejected for our faults. Moreover, forgiveness helps us deal with the fear of change. Often we hold on to past hurts as a way of maintaining a familiar identity, even if it is painful. Forgiveness allows us to let go of the past and embrace new possibilities, reducing the fear of the unknown and personal transformation. Jesus also taught that forgiveness is closely linked to divine grace. By practicing forgiveness, we align our actions with God's loving and merciful nature. This connection with the divine provides us with a source of strength and courage to face our fears and insecurities. Forgiveness also helps us overcome the fear of the truth about ourselves. Often, our resentments are a way to avoid looking at our own faults and responsibilities. Jesus taught the importance of removing the plank from your own eye before pointing out the faults of others. Forgiveness allows us to honestly face our own imperfections without fear, promoting personal growth and self-acceptance. Furthermore, forgiveness is a powerful tool for restoring relationships and communities. Jesus emphasized the importance of reconciliation and unity. By practicing forgiveness, we create opportunities to heal divisions and build stronger connections, reducing the fear of isolation and social rejection. Forgiveness also helps us deal with the fear of injustice. In a world where justice often seems to fail, forgiveness is not a denial of injustice but a refusal to let it control our lives and perpetuate cycles of fear and retaliation. Jesus demonstrated this by forgiving even when he was unjustly condemned. Finally, forgiveness connects us with the unconditional love that Jesus taught and demonstrated. This forgiving love goes beyond human logic and frees us from the fear of not being loved or not being worthy of love. By practicing forgiveness, we experience and share this transformative love. In short, forgiveness, as taught by Jesus, is a powerful tool for overcoming fear in its many forms. It frees us from the weight of the past, opens us to new possibilities in the future, heals deep emotional wounds, and connects us more deeply with others and with God. By incorporating forgiveness into our daily lives, we discover a freedom and peace that surpass human understanding, allowing us to live with courage and love, free from the dominion of fear. Forgiveness naturally leads us to Jesus' next crucial teaching for overcoming fear: following the path of peace. Jesus, often referred to as the Prince of Peace, taught and exemplified a life of peace that serves as a powerful antidote to fear and anxiety. The peace Jesus taught is not merely the absence of conflict, but a positive and active state of well-being and harmony. He told his disciples, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." This deep and enduring peace is a transformative force capable of dispelling fear in all its forms. Following the path of peace, as Jesus taught, begins with inner peace. He emphasized the importance of cultivating a calm mind and heart, even amid turbulent circumstances. This inner peace acts as a shield against fear, allowing us to face challenges with calmness and clarity, rather than reacting with panic or anxiety. Jesus demonstrated that true peace comes from a deep connection with God. He often withdrew to quiet places to pray, renewing his inner peace through communion with the Father. This practice teaches us that peace is not something we achieve by our own efforts, but a gift we receive when we align with the divine presence. Following the path of peace also means being a peacemaker in our relationships with others. Jesus taught, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." As we strive to promote peace in our relationships and communities, we create an environment that naturally reduces fear and tension. The peace that Jesus taught also frees us from the fear of the future. He encouraged his followers not to worry about tomorrow, but to trust in divine provision. This peace, based on trust, allows us to live in the present without being paralyzed by the fear of the unknown. Jesus also demonstrated that following the path of peace does not mean avoiding conflict at all costs. He confronted injustices and challenged oppressive systems, but always in a way that sought peaceful transformation rather than violence. This approach teaches us to face our fears and the problems of society with courage and compassion, without resorting to aggression or retaliation. Jesus' peace also frees us from the fear of difference. He crossed cultural and social barriers, showing that true peace embraces diversity. By following his example, we can overcome the fear of the other and create inclusive communities where everyone feels safe and valued. Moreover, following the path of peace helps us overcome the fear of failure. Jesus taught that our peace and worth do not come from our achievements or status, but from our identity as beloved children of God. This understanding frees us to live and act with confidence, without the paralyzing fear of not being good enough. The peace Jesus offers also helps us deal with the fear of death. He spoke of a peace that transcends human understanding and persists even in the face of death. This eternal perspective allows us to live with less fear of mortality and more focus on living a meaningful and fulfilling life. Following the path of peace also means cultivating an attitude of nonviolence, not only in actions but also in thoughts and words. Jesus taught to love enemies and pray for those who persecute us. This radical practice of peace challenges our instincts of fear and self-preservation, transforming the way we see and interact with those we consider threatening. The peace of Jesus also frees us from the fear of vulnerability. He demonstrated that true strength often manifests through gentleness and openness. By embracing this form of peace, we can free ourselves from the fear of being hurt or exploited, allowing us to form deeper and more authentic connections with others. Jesus also taught that true peace comes from living in harmony with God's will. He modeled a life of obedience and alignment with the divine purpose. This peace that comes from living with integrity and purpose frees us from the fear of living lives without meaning or direction. Following the path of peace also involves practicing forgiveness and reconciliation, themes Jesus repeatedly emphasized. The peace that comes from forgiveness frees us from the weight of resentment and the fear of being hurt again, allowing us to live with open and free hearts. The peace of Jesus also helps us overcome the fear of injustice. He taught that God sees and cares about every injustice, and that true justice will come. This perspective allows us to work for justice with hope and perseverance, without being consumed by fear and anger in the face of the world's injustices. Moreover, following the path of peace frees us from the fear of loneliness. Jesus promised to always be with us and gave us the community of the church. This peace that comes from divine and human connection assures us that we are never truly alone, dissipating the fear of isolation. Jesus also demonstrated that true peace is active, not passive. He did not withdraw from the world, but actively engaged in it, bringing healing, hope, and transformation. This active peace frees us from the fear of helplessness, encouraging us to be agents of positive change in our world. The peace that Jesus offers also helps us deal with the fear of suffering. He did not promise a life without difficulties, but a peace that persists even amid trials. This peace gives us the strength to face challenges with courage and serenity, knowing that we are not alone in our struggles. Finally, following the path of peace as Jesus taught leads to a complete transformation of the mind and heart. It is a continuous process of inner renewal that gradually replaces fear with confidence, anxiety with serenity, and hostility with love. In short, following the path of peace, as taught and demonstrated by Jesus, is a powerful strategy for overcoming fear in all its forms. This peace, which transcends human understanding, offers us a solid foundation to live with courage, compassion, and purpose, free from the chains of fear and anxiety. As we incorporate this peace into our daily lives, we not only experience personal transformation, but also become agents of peace and hope in a world often dominated by fear. Additionally, humility is a fundamental virtue in Jesus' teachings, crucial for overcoming fear and strengthening our trust in God. Being humble means recognizing our limitations and dependence on the Creator, allowing us to build more authentic relationships and accept corrections that help us grow. Jesus taught that humility leads to deeper trust in God rather than in our own resources. Biblical examples, such as King David, show that great leaders and biblical figures prospered not by their strength but by their humility before God. David, despite being a powerful king, constantly sought God's guidance and acknowledged his divine dependence. This humility is crucial for facing fear. When we rely on our own strength, we are quickly overwhelmed by limitations and uncertainties. However, by recognizing our need for God, we find a greater strength that sustains us. Humility helps us realize that we do not need to bear the weight of our problems alone, as God is by our side, guiding and strengthening us. Humility is also essential for building genuine and authentic relationships. Jesus exemplified this in his interactions with various people, from his disciples to the marginalized of society. He never placed himself above others, but always showed deep respect and love. This humble attitude allowed Jesus to form genuine and transformative connections. Following Jesus' example, we can use humility to strengthen our relationships. By acknowledging our flaws and accepting those of others, we create an environment of mutual understanding and support. Humility allows us to listen to and value others' perspectives, making us more receptive to divine love and guidance. Accepting corrections is one of life's greatest challenges, but humility prepares us for this. Jesus taught that we should be willing to learn and grow. Humility helps us see criticism as opportunities for improvement rather than personal attacks. When we accept corrections with a humble heart, we pave the way for significant spiritual and personal growth. The fear of failure or judgment can paralyze our progress. However, humility frees us from these fears, reminding us that our worth is not in our achievements, but our relationship with God. The trust in God that results from humility gives us the courage to face challenges without the fear of failure. Stories of people who practiced humility demonstrate this truth. By letting go of pride and embracing humility, many found deep peace and renewed courage to face life's fears and uncertainties. In summary, humility is a powerful path to overcoming fear. By recognizing our dependence on God, we build authentic relationships, accept corrections, and find the strength to face any challenge. May we seek humility daily, trusting that as we do, we will be guided and sustained by God. Jesus' teachings offer a clear and transformative path to overcoming fear. Through trust in God, we seek a greater strength that sustains us in adversity. Jesus invites us to prioritize the heavenly kingdom, shifting our focus from earthly concerns and trusting in divine provision. He teaches us to live in the present, appreciating current blessings and not overburdening ourselves with future anxieties. The practice of constant prayer keeps us connected with God, renewing our inner peace and reminding us of our divine dependence. Faith, a central element in Jesus' teachings, gives us the courage to face seemingly insurmountable challenges. Knowing the truth frees us from the lies and distortions that fuel our fears, providing clarity and confidence. Loving our neighbor, a fundamental commandment, frees us from the fear of others, promoting authentic and compassionate relationships. Forgiveness frees us from the weight of the past, allowing us to live without rancor and with open hearts. Finally, following the path of peace, as Jesus exemplified, offers us a deep and lasting peace that transcends circumstances. This peace frees us from the fear of the future, difference, failure, and even death. As we incorporate these teachings into our daily lives, we not only overcome our fears, but also become agents of peace and hope in a world often dominated by anxiety and fear. May we thus live with courage,